There seems to be no solution in sight to stop the influx of the fake goods that are entering our country. Many businesses are struggling to sustain themselves due to competition from counterfeit goods. Fisher and Spoor says the solution lies in stopping the goods from entering the country at the country's ports in the first place. I'm joined by Paul Ramara from the organization. He joins us now virtually. Paul, how bad is this? I understand that you also even, represent a few clients who have had a problem.
Yes, we represent quite a number of brands that have a big challenge with counterfeiting. It is indeed a big problem. It's a global phenomena, accounting for between 7 to 10% of the world trade. It is a problem that is obviously continuing and getting bigger in Africa. So it is a big problem.
And, we do know that, for instance, SARS has, the responsibility, especially at our ports of entry, to ensure that they check everything. But we know this is only at about 10-15% of all the goods that make it here are usually checked by officials. Have you been able to get to the bottom of what's causing that 10-15%? I mean, that means 85% of goods come through, and some of them could be fake. We're not saying all of them. But do you think it's a lack of staff issue? What is it?
Yeah, so first of all, I think SARS or custom falling under the South African Revenue Service, their key mandate is to collect duties and make sure the correct debts are paid, and also make sure people are paying taxes. So now fighting counterfeiting is just an additional layer. And on top of that, they have a duty to facilitate trade. So it's almost impossible for SARS to open all the containers. And as you correctly pointed out, as things stand, they open between 7 to 10% of all the containers, probably about 2,000 containers, to be precise. And there's a lot of containers that get cleared through customs, on a daily basis. So it really is difficult. So there are, of course, resource issues, at SARS. They are not able to open all the containers. In fact, not everything that comes through is counterfeit, as you correctly pointed out. But we do have a big problem of counterfeit goods coming into the country. And it is of vital importance that we stop these goods at the port of entry before they even come into the country.
Exactly. And if we're only looking at 7 to 10% of the containers, then this issue will continue. But also some of what I've heard from people, that we've spoken to is that sometimes they aren't able to tell, especially with clothing, whether something is fake or not.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that we do as a law firm is we invest a lot in brand identification training. We do this on an annual basis with officers. We arrange this training. And the main purpose is really to tell or educate custom officers on how to identify counterfeit goods from genuine ones. But there are other things that are just giveaways that the public needs to be aware of. And often is the price that is being offered. If the price is too good to be true, it probably is. The quality also is a giveaway. Also, spelling errors, it's also another giveaway. But of course, there are many other, security features that each brand holder, invests some money in. To make sure that they use those security features to determine what is counterfeit from original goods.
When you talk about the price that is too good to be true, the issue with South Africa is that our economy is not, very inclusive for everyone. So there is definitely a market in terms of buying counterfeit goods, especially when it comes to clothing brands that are expensive. But, talk to me about the Counterfeit Goods Act of 1997. It says that people who this is their intellectual property can apply to the SARS commissioner for them to seize the goods, right? Seize and detain. Take us through the process of this. For instance, does it have too much red tape? What happens there? Do they even seize and detain the goods, or do they make it back onto the streets? Because that's what we see.
Yeah, I sit in a very fortunate position in the sense that I do anti-counterfeiting across Africa. And I can tell you now that in South Africa, we're very lucky to have an act that is specifically enacted to fight counterfeiting. And in that act, there is a provision for registration of your trademarks, of a brand holder's trademarks with customs. So essentially what happens is that if you are a brand holder and you have, say, a trademark for clothing, you can approach the South African Revenue Service. You can, in that application, indicate your goods that are most likely to be counterfeited or your most counterfeited products. You can, put in the pictures. You can also add in the security features that you'd want customs to be on the lookout for. And that application is then filed with the Commissioner of South African Revenue Service. And once this is approved, it is then computerized and it is accessible to all officers at various ports of entry. It is extremely effective, and customs is able to approve this application within a very reasonable time. I'm quite happy with this particular custom recordation program. Is very efficient, and in fact, this is what I also have spoken to my counterparts in Kenya to try and adopt a similar kind of recordation, because it's very, very, very effective.
Well, it's quite refreshing to actually hear something positive, at least in terms of our issue with counterfeit goods about this act. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Ramara. Hopefully this is something that South Africa and the government, police, everyone involved can be able to arrest. Paul Ramara is representing those who actually apply for their intellectual property not to continue to be stolen or faked.